Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak. And of course, I want to say Shalom to Akhnakwath out there, pursuing His truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson and with another edition of If the Lord Was Really Dealing With You, You'd Be More Creative. And this should be the second and final edition of this little two-part lesson. And of course, it's dealing with Esau and their lack of creativity as they have. And as I mentioned yesterday, I said that I can actually delete this. I put this little note here, find more information. And I did find more information, all right? And I actually just didn't even change or do anything to it. I just did it directly on ChatGPT. I'll go all the way to the top. So I said, what are some things that black people have contributed to society that most people don't know of? I've seen the black inventors list, but what are some more things? And it says, there are quite a few contributions by black people that don't get nearly as much attention as the famous black inventors lists. Some are inventions, others are foundational contributions to industries, science, agriculture, music, military history, and agriculture. So, starting from the top, agriculture, okay? It says, George Washington Carver, it says, most people know the peanut myth. He didn't invent peanut butter, but his real contribution was revolutionizing southern agriculture through crop rotation, soil restoration, and finding hundreds of commercial uses for crops like peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans. But again, Jake can't, do anything, right? According to Esau. Another one was, it doesn't really fit with this lesson, and it does kind of fit with this lesson at the same time, is it's probably a good topic for another lesson. Esau always fucking with Jake, right? And there was one, it was a clip, and I think it might have been from that same show that we showed yesterday. It might have been from a different, one of those 90s shows, early 2000 shows. And, or it might have been a newer thing. I don't remember exactly what it was. But it was an individual that was saying, what were they saying? They said, I wish they would just, go to their own neighborhoods. They come to our neighborhoods and they try to mess with us, and we don't do that to them. We've never gone to their neighborhoods and tried to mess it up and done this stuff. And then this lady basically gives a whole list, all right? Was it a lady? I don't know. I confuse a lot of these videos. But it might have been a guy or whoever the individual was, gave a whole list of several occurrences where Edomites went into Israelite neighborhoods and tore them up. Okay, we all know about the whole Tulsa, right? Tulsa massacre, Tulsa race riot, whatever you want to call it. But there's been several more of those spread out. But again, they don't want you to know these different types of things. They don't want you to know about that. They don't want you to know about so-called black man finding hundreds of commercial uses for crops like peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans. Because here's the thing. If you don't have a commercial use for a crop like peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans, those are crops that you can't make money out of. Okay? You're not going to make any money from those things. So that's lost revenue. So, and then soil restoration, crop rotation. Well, these are the type of things that are going to actually help you with making more money, right? Because if you're having soil restoration, if you don't do that, really, soil restoration, I wonder what he exactly did for soil restoration. Because really, there's supposed to be a land Sabbath. Okay? There's supposed to be a land Sabbath. With the land at that area actually gets rest for 7 years. Okay? Before you do anything with it. Because Esau, what they'll do is they'll farm and farm and farm and farm and farm and farm and farm, or they'll tear down trees and tear down trees and tear down trees and tear down trees, and they'll make an area basically not uninhabitable, but unfit for agricultural use, or unfit for basically like deforestation too, right? Where they take all these trees and they never give it a break. They don't plant any. They just keep on taking, and they're just wiping out whole forests and ecosystems, man. But they don't want you to know about Jake coming up with these different types of things, revolutionizing Southern agriculture. Okay, and the South has some of the highest highest amount of farms, all right, and dealing with agriculture. What else we got? It said enslaved West Africans. So West Africa, we know West Africans are, most of them, not all of them, but most of West Africa is Jake. Okay, the other Africas, they have some, right, Jake, but most of the West Africans are Jake, right? They act different, right? You can just tell it in the way they are. You can tell it with like Ghana and how you have the Ghana boys and all these different individuals. They dance and dress like Jake, and you know they're Jake. All right. Once you know how to recognize Jake, they're Jake. It says, and they have a sauce about them. You know, you talk to those Nigerians, they just have a different sauce, right? They're just they're not like a regular Hamite. And they have sense, unlike the other Hamites. It says enslaved West Africans brought advanced rice growing knowledge. Historians now recognize that many rice plantations in South Carolina and Georgia were successful because enslaved people from the rice coast of West Africa already possessed sophisticated irrigation and cultivation techniques. So again, when they brought Jake over, right, on those boats, they were already doing better. And that's the thing. That's another thing we see, all right, which is a lie. Okay, let's go and get a scripture about some lies. But what I was saying is that the Esau, with his lies, like you know, oh, they're living in dirt huts, you know, they're non-technological, they're not smart, you know, they all these different types of shit they try to put on Jake, but they don't realize that they were actually more advanced than them. They were actually more advanced than them. So let's see. We'll go with we'll get this one. We've got it a lot, but this one's good. So Job 13:4, and I like it a lot because it talks about forging, right? But ye are forgers of lies, ye are all physicians of no value. Now, of course, that's referring to Esau, but forgers of lies, as I always explain it to be, time and time again. And I'll continue to explain it as long as I'm alive and well in this truth. Lord willing, I am, and I stay. As well as you diligent brothers and sisters out there, and all the, you know, the brothers and sisters follow in this truth and in true sincerity, right? But forging, all right, is the creation of. Okay, so they create lies. And what we see with getting what we're talking about is that they formulate these lies that you hear them time and time again. Oh, they're living in dirt huts. They're living in huts. They're uncivilized. They're savage. You know, they're dumb. They don't know how to do anything. They're not technological. They don't do anything. And then, speaking technological, hell, we're a little bit in this list with ChatGPT. We're getting back in that. Now, I mentioned it before, right? The first gigahertz chip, right? The first gigahertz chip, the first color monitor was that Jake individual from IBM. But again, they try to dumb our people down to knowing nothing about technology. You know, there's that video. All right, they don't even know what a laptop is. And Jake did that joke. He's like, oh, ah! He's like fucking poking around at it like a caveman. Here, yeah. Check this out.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them. Because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions through technology, then you're really addressing society's broader challenge. Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word...
Oh, that's just, it's funny as fuck. You know, black people don't know what computers are. Fuck. You know, and this is the try to lie. These are the lies they try to put out.
Computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them. Because when you have their diverse voices...
Jake is a fucking troll, man. Jake is just funny and shit, right? He decided to put out that video. He didn't make the noise, but he was scratching at the armpit like a monkey.
Want the world open up to all of them.
Like a primitive man. You know, because that's what they think our people are. Like, we're fucking primitive. Like, we don't even know what a fucking computer is. You know? It's fucking dumb. You know? It's hilarious. So this guy says, wow, imagine what she says about black people when the camera isn't on. This is a good example of why identity politics and why it's such a bad idea. What else we got? What else? Well played. She for real. She could have said algebra, trigonometry, or whatever, but computers, you know, and they probably even have that. And what did she say? Specifically in the Bronx. Bronx has all that shit, right? Again, they're trying to lower down, and again, like the place I'm training at right now is it's in the ghetto, right? It's in downtown North Las Vegas, and it's a known area, right? It comes up in the news a lot of shootings and shit. But the thing is, I love the area. Like it's not even that bad, and I was talking to my wife on the way home about it. And Esau, what they do is they try to downplay. Now, everybody that's been in the ghetto, there are rough ass ghetto. There's different levels, right? There's different degrees of ghetto, right? You have like first 3-degree ghetto, all right, 3-point ghetto, where, yeah, I mean, it's poverty, right? But you don't have a ton of violence. There's probably some going on, but you don't ever see it. You rarely hear about it. And then you have, your 4, 5, and 6, where, yeah, it's your regular standard ghetto, right? It's your standard ghetto. Shit's, there is violence that goes on and other shit. And then you have your 7, 8, 9, and 10, or 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah. And, yeah, or I'll just do 7, 8, 9, or 7, 8, 9, yeah. And it's bad, elevated, right? What they would consider the trenches. And then you have a level 10 ghetto, that's just a fucking murder pit, man. Places that are like, you don't even want to step fucking foot in, right? It's not like a hardcore trenches where you can go and probably get your shit and get gas and get out. There's places you don't even want to be around, man. There's people that live there and say, man, this place is fucking demon, right? This place is on demon time, all right? This is a fucking horrible fucking place. You don't even want to be around here. Their whole family's basically been shot up. There's some places like that, man. It's basically like Memphis back in the day, right? It's not like that anymore, but Memphis back in the day was like that. It's deadly as fuck. Was deadly as fuck. But Esau tries to play it because she was like, because it's always on the news, and she's like, this place isn't even that bad. I said, I know. And I said, this is how most ghettos are. And there are ghettos that are bad, but no matter how bad they are, most of the time Esau plays them up a little bit more than they are. As long as you keep your head down, you mind your fucking business, you don't say some crazy shit, you don't look at people all fucking crazy, you'll probably be fine. Alright, and I've noticed that the people in the ghetto, personally to me, they're better than like the stuck up areas, because you're not gonna have anybody judging you, looking at you all fucking crazy usually. But Esau plays these places off like, oh, if you're like a so-called white person, you go in there, you're gonna be shot immediately. Like 3 black guys are gonna come out and say, hey, it's a white man, come and kill him immediately. And that's just not something that happens. All right, that's just not something that happens. It's not something that occurred. You don't go there and get robbed immediately. Can it happen? Yes, it can happen. But again, this is the type of lies that they do, right? Again, they're forged lies. They make up these lies, and they do all sorts of this evil shit. They lie, and they say, oh, if you go there, you're going to be shot immediately. You're going to be robbed immediately. This and this and this. And then that's not even going into other things, right, that they do in the ghetto. In the ghetto, they try to keep you poor. For example, down the street from where I'm working, there's a Goodwill, and I just went in there. I go in there occasionally since I've been training there, and look at the DVDs and shit, and any of the physical media. And funny thing I noticed is that on my side of town, because we don't live over there, we live in like the nicer area, and DVDs over here I believe at Goodwill are $1.99. I think they're let's see, they might be. I'm trying to see. They might be. They think they're one. No, they might be $2.99. I think they might be $2.99. Yeah, I think they're $2.99. But in the Ghetto, they're $3.99, which is just kind of weird, right? And it's really keeping the poor. Okay, and the gas is more expensive in the Ghetto. You'd think things would be more cheap, but no. You go to the nicer areas and everything's cheaper in the nice areas, and everything's more expensive in the hood areas. Again, that's just that would be like I guess it would be an unrighteous decree. You could consider it as an unrighteous decree. It's not any law that we can technically see on the outside, but there's something going on behind the scenes where they want to make things expensive there. So some council board meeting that we're not seeing, it still technically is a decree. It's just not like a court of law. It's not something like in a court of law. But anyway, they say all these things. Oh, they don't know what computers are, this and that, and this and that. And it's all lies. Okay, it's all lies. The same thing with their lying with you about all these different things about Jake. They just lie. Esau just makes up so many different lies, man. It's impossible to keep up with. It's impossible to keep up with. And again, ghettos, not a particular place you want to hang around all the time. I mean, some of them are worse than others. But... And then Jake, the 2/3 there. There's 2/3 in nice areas and there's 2/3 in bad areas. I mean, there's 2/3 everywhere, man. And 2/3 act like 2/3 wherever they happen to be. But yeah, man, it's just Esau makes things out to be just... They blow them out of proportion. Okay, they blow them out of proportion. Like, oh, you see a person with a head wrap on and a hijab, they're going to, pull out a detonator and bomb something immediately. Oh, if you see a Jake... walking down the street at night, they're going to rob you and beat you senselessly immediately. You go to the Ghetto and they're going to stab you for being white. All this. I'm like, none of this shit's happening like that, man. Are there instances where it does occur? Sure, stuff like that can occur. But what you're doing is you're fear-mongering and you're trying to make, again, it's part of your lies. It's part of your deceiving. Okay, you try to make Jake look worse than they are. And Jake's an asshole and Jake's doing, some bad shit. But Esau goes and tries to go above and beyond to make them look worse than they really are, right? And that's what they do. And they want us to look like a bunch of uncivilized goons that are sitting around, like that guy in the video, all right, that was making that joke, fucking scratching armpits and, trying to nibble at a computer because we don't know what it is. That's where they really want us to be, okay? That's where they really want us to be. Because they can't... once you start showing that everything's created by Jake, and all the music was created by Jake, and there's more community with Jake, and you go into the Ghetto with Jake, and they're nicer than in white neighborhoods with white people, how are you going to have someone who you're demonizing, a Ghetto Jake, a Ghetto, gangbanger, and how are they going to be someone that has more compassion than in a white neighborhood? And that's the thing. They probably try to play it off as like, oh, we're much nicer than them. No, you're not. You're not, though. Okay, you're not. In white areas, I've literally seen it with the homeless people. They'll bully the homeless people. First of all, they'll say all sorts of evil types of shit. And they'll also say, get a job, you fucking bum. And they're like, oh, could you spare a couple change? Get a fucking job, you fucking bum. I work for my money. Maybe you should work for yours. They'll say that type of shit. They don't do that shit in the Ghetto, but they do that shit in their little nice areas. Like, oh, why you're homeless? Get out of here, you fucking bum. I shouldn't have to be looking at your homeless ass. You being impoverished and you not having a house is an inconvenience to me. Don't you think it's an inconvenience to them? Don't you think that they want a house? Don't you think that they don't want to suffer? Right? But no, they're an eyesore to you. Right? No, it's just fucking stupid, man. Stupid. Right? And all these Edomites do are they complain, okay? But they haven't made anything. We literally don't even need you. You're functionally useless to society, right? All you do is rape, rob, murder, kill, right? And colonize. That's all you do, okay? And just bring rampant amounts of violence. We don't need you in society. Oh, yeah. And well, it's still robbery, but you take our money, you put all these fucking paper and digital yokes, All right, all sorts of different yokes and different fucking shit that you put on us. Call us different names. What do we need you for? You're literally useless. You want to know how useless you are? This is how useless you are. And how wicked you are. Is that after 1,000 years of the kingdom of captivity, you're going to be destroyed. You're not going to... If you were really important, the Lord would keep you around. But you're not being kept around. You want to know why you're not kept around? Because you're not needed. Okay? You are not needed. So, agricultural knowledge. Techniques for cultivating crops like okra, black-eyed peas, yams, sorghum, sesame, came largely from so-called Africans brought to the Americas. Medicine. Dr. Charles Drew developed an improved method. Oh, excuse me. This was in that Black Inventors list. It said, developed improved methods for storing blood plasma, making modern blood banks more practical. Blood banks practical as well. And then also, even in order to transport the blood, another Jake was the one who created the refrigerated truck, right? So getting food long distances and getting blood long distances helped with medical and food supply, ultimately. A lot of these stores, Walmart and Target and Kroger, all these different places where you have to happen to be, you know, whether it's places like Safeway or Food Line, any of these places you got to be. Smart and Final, Seafood City, Grocery Outlet, any of these places, man. They all have refrigerated truck that comes in. Every single one of them. Every single one of them with refrigerated goods, right? But again, we don't need Jake, right? We can just, just get them all back and send them back to Africa, where they're not even from, right? Most Edomites are dumb. They don't even send them back to Africa, right? Let's send them all back to Africa. Send them all back to Africa. Like that fucking Johnny Rebel song. If you don't know who Johnny Rebel is, he's a country western singer that was in the KKK or sung songs for the KKK. One of them, I think maybe both. If you sent us all back to Africa, all right, all the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, or you want to split us up and send all the Latinos and Native Americans, where are you going to send the Native Americans back to? All right, they were here. So where are you going to send them back to? All right, because really we all go back to Israel. But if we're looking to where allegedly were, all right, because Jake was dwelling in Africa and Issachar was dwelling in Mexico and Gad, of course, and North America. If you sent us all back to where we're from, allegedly, we still wouldn't be back where we're from. But let's just say that you did. What's the plan then? As I mentioned, I believe yesterday, like I said, I think we should just do it for a month. All right, humor them. We all go back to where they think we're from just for a month and just see how this place crumbles. Because it probably wouldn't even take but a month to crumble in the first place. But, they wouldn't have... Oh, and with that, we wouldn't even have to do that, first of all. We could just leave it how it is and then just go. And then agriculture would fail. Infrastructure would fail. Food service would fail. Of course, construction would fail. Blue-collar work would fail because it's all Jake. But let's just say if we really wanted to make sure it failed, send us all back with our inventions. Send us all back to Africa and Mexico. And I don't know, I guess you're just going to have to send the Native Americans with the Mexicans. Just send them to Mexico, right? It's America anyway. Just send the Gadites and them and Issacharites and send them back to Mexico. I don't know if you're going to divvy up Ephraim, put them actually back in Puerto Rico, or you could just send all the Northern Kingdom, all right, to Mexico, and all the Southern Kingdom to Africa, right? Or wherever you want to put Northern Kingdom, all to South America, Central America, wherever the fuck, right? Just pick a place and send them there, and see how long it would take for it to fail. Less than a month, and hell, less than a day. All right, if you sent us back with our inventions. So, but we didn't do anything. It's just fucking stupid, man. All right, Dr. Daniel Halley or Hale Williams actually performed one of the first successful open heart surgeries in 1893. So there you go. Jake did it. Henrietta Lacks her HeLa cells, from her first and last name, became the first immortal human cell line, leading to breakthroughs in vaccines, cancer research, IVF, genetics, and countless medical advances. See, that's another thing. They needed they need our blood, they need our cells and shit, so don't give it to them, right? Don't give it to them. They always want to try to do something with our blood. Vivian Thomas, despite lacking a formal medical degree, he developed surgical techniques that transformed pediatric heart surgery. Here we go. I've talked about most of these. Engineering and technology. Mark Dean, IBM engineer who helped develop the first Isobus architecture used in personal computers. Co-invented the first color PC monitor for IBM. Holds multiple foundational PC patents. And then I think there was another Jake that worked on the keyboard, right? The modern keyboard that we know. Otis Boykin improved electrical resistors using pacemakers, guided missiles, IBM computers, household electronics. There you go. Lonnie Johnson invented the Super Soaker. Also worked in NASA engineer on spacecraft power systems. And then you got a bunch of stuff with like mathematics and space. We'll skip most of those because some of those things are weird or require further information. All right. What do we got? Military, Harlem Hellfighters. Here again, lazy, can't do anything. Well, Harlem Hellfighters fought longer than almost any American unit in World War I and earned extraordinary praise from the French military. The Tuskegee Airmen helped demonstrate the effectiveness of black military pilots, contributing to the eventual desegregation of the United States Armed Forces. And then Doris Miller, a cook aboard the USS West Virginia during Pearl Harbor, who manned anti-aircraft guns despite no formal training. I've heard about this, and became one of the first black recipients of the Navy Cross. Yeah, they were just a cook essentially, right? Ooh. Just a cook, and went and hopped, and they shot down a lot of those kamikaze pilots, man. So you keep on going on. Look, music. Black Americans created or fundamentally shaped numerous music genres: blues, jazz, gospel, rock and roll, R&B, soul, funk, and hip hop. Where does metal come from? Well, metal comes from rock and roll, and rock and roll comes from blues, right? What about country? All right. Well, first of all, country should be on here, but country is really just a derivative form of blues. All right, with some soul in it, if you really want to get down to it. So yeah, all these different things. Food. Gumbo, Hoppin' John, barbecue techniques, okra, black-eyed peas, red rice, and then sesame wafers. Linguistics. Several dialects of English, especially in American South and Caribbean. All the little white girls going around saying period, slay, sis, slay, calling each other sisters and sis. That was a black girl thing. Okay, black girl thing, so-called. All right, and I think Latinos might have done it. I'm not too familiar. I just remember it being a black girl thing specifically. They're like, I'm going out with our sisters. And then black guys would even say it. Oh yeah, look at those sisters over there, right? I love me a good sister, right? Talking about so-called black women. Same thing with brothers, all right? So-called black men. All right, or in this Truth Brothers refers to brothers in this ministry. But yeah, so linguistics, environmental science, psychology and social science, animation and art. Look at this, Floyd Norman, Disney's first black animator. Worked on classes like The Jungle Book and later contributed to numerous Disney and Pixar productions. Computing, photography, lesser known everyday contributions. Yeah, we pretty much got all these yesterday, but there you go. It says one thing that's overlooked. That's often overlooked. It is easy to focus on patents, but many contributions weren't patented because of legal, economic, and social barriers. I talked about this yesterday. The patents would usually go to the slave master. It says, Black Americans also made foundational contributions through craftsmanship, science, research, agriculture, expertise, music, medicine, mathematics, military service, and cultural innovation. In many cases, their work has become so ingrained into everyday life that it's no longer widely associated with the people who developed it. All part of Esau's scheme and scam and lies, man. So, bear with me. So let's get Daniel 1 and 17. Fuck you. 1 and 17. This job has been draining me, man. And, like I said, where I'm training, it's like an hour out from where I actually live. So I go there. I've been doing these 5 a.m.s. And then after those 5 a.m.s, I get a little bit of sleep. And then today I had to close until 10:30. And then I don't get home till about 11:30. And then 11:30, you got to get some food. And it's late, so you got to go and grab some junk fucking food. Now at a fast food restaurant, I'm going to Cane's. And then, it takes a while. You got to drive there and grab gas, and that's another hour. And then you get here, you sit down, it's fucking midnight of 1, alright, by the time you get in here. It's fucking draining. Anyway, Daniel 1 and 17, but this place isn't our rest anyway. But Daniel 1 and 17, it says, Yeah. So Daniel 1 and 17, that's where I was going with it. And as for these 4 children, let me see. It's not, I don't think this is what I'm looking for. Let me see. We'll skip this one. Okay, we'll get Genesis 12 and 2 through 3. Alright, Genesis 12 and 2 through 3. It says, and I will make thee, it's for Jake, and I will make thee, I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him who curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So all families of the earth, alright, are blessed through us. It says, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. And why? How are they blessed through us? Because we created all these different things for them to use. Right? They wouldn't have AC, they wouldn't have ambulances, they wouldn't have free school lunch, they wouldn't have all these different computers, gigahertz chips, they wouldn't have, be able to donate blood, they wouldn't be able to have these, the food and the way the situation is. I mean, they'd still, the refrigerator, the AC, they'd be using fucking ice boxes still at this very day and age, man. And that's primitive now, because of Jake. So, yeah, we're a blessing to the people of this world. Because without our inventions that we are blessed with having through the Most High, all right, because He knows us, He deals with us, all right, and we're the salt of the earth, so He gives us these abilities to know these things. Without that, well, we wouldn't have it. Without that, we wouldn't have it. And that's why Esau doesn't have it. It's because we were blessed. We were given the knowledge, the truth, this understanding. And with that, we were also, as Israelites, the salt of the earth. Okay? So no one else can do it like we do. All right? No one can dance like we dance. No one can talk like we talk. No one can do any of these things. But they can try and fail, be embarrassed, and then call us racist or something. because we said something or called it out. But yeah, that's fine, man. You do you. Finally, Amos 3:2. That says, "You only have I known of all the families of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities." So you're not going to spank anybody else's kids, and that's why we get punished in the ways that we do when we go off, because again, those are for amendment, all right, for correction. These heathens, they can't be corrected, okay? They can't be. So, I think that's pretty much it. Let's close that out. Boom. And so, yeah, man, everything that Esau says, it's all really just a fallacy. It's all just a bunch of lies. They're so creative. They're so gifted. And they're good at doing everything and making everything. Well, really, all of that shit's stolen. All right? It's stolen valor. All right, that's a term they use for people that try to claim that they're military or not. But it's stolen valor. It's valor. What is valor or valor or valor? What is it? It's basically something you have bragging rights over, but it says valor is a great courage and bravery, especially in battle or when facing dangers. There's another one. I could add the U, but I think it's just the same word, just the English spelling. It's like something here, like it says for great courage, bravery. That's not the one. There's another one. It's like something that you've done. Let me see. Let me do the Merriam-Webster. Prowess, gallantry, courage. I guess they use it. Some people use it for other reasons as well. Valor is like achievements type. Sometimes, I believe. I could be getting it wrong, but anyway, that's really stolen achievements. I'll say, okay, stolen achievements. And they'll claim that they did them, and they didn't really do shit at the end of the day. So that's where we'll close out. This has been part 2 of if the Lord was really dealing with you, you'd be more creative, and you wouldn't have to steal. You wouldn't want to have to lie. All right, you just invent them. All right, you'd be sitting home, you'd have the best crazy invention coming to you, like, oh my God, write it down, but you don't, and that's because the Lord's not dealing with you, but He is dealing with us, and that's why those things come out of us and not you. So that's where I'm going to close it out. Lord, what was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Akakwadash. Shalom, brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. We're almost out of here. All of Esau's stuff's getting put on the table. Everyone's looking at it and staying away from them. So until next one, Lord willing,